Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was in prison school and falls in love with Meiko, part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. And also make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, AizenTheGoat, and support him for writing this awesome fanfic. Link is in the description, so let's get into the video. Hachimitsu Academy, a school that since it's been open has been an all-girl institution. However, this year the chairman of the school decided to allow males to enroll. The catch, however, was that only 6 would be allowed to enter. Currently we find Naruto Namek is walking toward the academy. Naruto is 5'10" feet tall, has short spiky blonde hair with blue eyes. He is currently wearing the boys' uniform, which consists of a dark blue blazer over a plain white button-down long sleeve, black pants, and black shoes. The tie is optional, so he decided not to wear one. One hand in his pocket while the other has his bag slung over his shoulder, he walks towards the school which is just coming in sight. If I'm correct, this is the school Meiko goes to. He thinks to himself as he walks down the street. I'm already a week late due to some issue with the paperwork. I wonder who I'm going to have to room with. I know they let 5 others from the same school enter as well, so they probably already got acquainted. Damn, it's gonna be hard being the new kid. Once he finally reaches the school, he heads to the chairman's office as instructed to receive his schedule and to properly introduce himself. He finds the correct room and knocks twice until he hears the man on the other side usher him in. The room is pretty nice, if a bit dark. It's a big room with a desk right across from the door he just entered. Behind the desk is a window with a view of the school. In front of the chairman are seats most likely for anyone he instructs to come by. The chairman himself is an older man with somewhat gray hair. He wears a black suit with a white long sleeve undershirt with a light blue tie. Naruto stands there for a minute while the man is doing something on his computer, looking pretty focused. Must be something important for him to be that focused. Naruto thinks that's before he notices the reflection of the computer screen on the window behind him. Is he watching porn? He thinks flabbergasted, though on the outside he doesn't show it. A few moments later the man looks up and goes through a few papers before finally speaking. I see you're wearing the boys' uniform, which must mean that your Namek is Naruto, correct? Yes sir, a pleasure to meet you. He replies, extending his hand out. The chairman shakes it before speaking again. Here's your schedule, he says, handing Naruto the papers. For the duration of your second year, these will be the classes you will be attending. Naruto looks over the classes and is content with what he has. He only hopes he can at least have one of the other dudes in the class with him, so he won't be the only guy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's no problem at all, I hope you enjoy learning here. He says. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. Does he always end his sentences like that? I'll be going now. Naruto left the room and proceeded to his first class. Along the way he noticed he was getting a lot of looks from the female students. Not looks of lust or anything like that, more like looks of curiosity. They're probably still getting used to seeing a guy around here since it's been an all-girls school up until now. He thinks. Most of the day was quite uneventful. As he expected, almost no one talked to him either because he's the new kid or because maybe they just didn't care to speak to him. It was in his 5th period while the sensei was taking roll that he heard a guy's name being called. The desk to his right was empty. Strange, it's only been a week. Is this guy ditching class already? Looking over to his left he sees a female classmate and decides he'll ask her about the dude and why he hasn't seen any of the other males in the school yet. Excuse me? He whispers as to not get caught by the teacher. Do you know where all the guys are? I just got here today and haven't seen any of them around at all. Her face went from a look of disgust when he talked to her, which he noticed, to understanding when he mentioned he had just gotten here. The boys were sent to prison last week. She is clearly happy. He thanked her for the information and turned back to his seat shocked. They got sent to prison, what the hell did they do? Fuck, now I'm the only guy here and to top it off I have no friends. He couldn't focus for the rest of the class. He just kept wondering what these guys could have done to get sent to prison after only a week of school. Did they attack a teacher? Did they lose control of their beastly urges and sexually harass one of the girls? But these thoughts still in mind, he headed to his final class of the day. In his final class of the day, he's not surprised to once again be the only guy considering what he just learned. He looks at everyone in the room quickly, but one person catches his attention. Towards the back of the room he notices a gray-haired girl whose hair is in a bun with 2 strands hanging on the side of her face, giving her a sort of sexy librarian look. She has glasses, and what really catches his eye is her uniform. Her brown jacket is only buttoned from the bottom half, almost completely exposing her breasts. The same with her undershirt. Around her neck she has a red bolo tie. She has thigh-high black socks with some knee-high black-heeled boots. She's sitting with one leg crossed over the other, giving him a good view of her legs. With the willpower of the gods he's able to look away and sit 2 desks to her left. Well, he checked her out, he couldn't help but think he knew her. Alright class, you might now be aware, but I'll say it anyway. The final boy that is transferring to our school is in our class. Young man, would you please come up to the front and introduce yourself? She asked him, though it was really a command. Heading to the front, he writes his name on the board and addresses the class. My name is Naruto, I'm 17 years old, I like ramen and cars and I dislike a lot of things, so I'll spare you the details. Please treat me well. He finishes and bows a little before heading back to his seat. Sometime halfway through the class, a small folded square landed on his desk from his right. He looks over at the girl to the right of him and sees her point to the girl from earlier. She's writing notes, not even making some form of acknowledgement that she had indeed sent him the note. Checking to make sure the teacher isn't looking, he carefully unfolds the note and reads what it says. Meet me by the big tree at the end of the track 10 minutes after class ends. Meiko, that's Meiko. He thinks to himself. She looked nothing like the shy little girl he knew when they were kids. Puberty was definitely kind to her. He thinks now, excited that he had his old friend in a class. He couldn't help but notice she now had a strong aura radiation off of her. After what felt like eternity, class finally ended. Naruto went to his dorm room, which he now found out he had to himself since the other 5 all roomed together. Oh well, it worked out better for him anyway. He dropped his bag off but didn't have enough time to change, so he just removed his blazer and went with his white button-up. He got to the tree and saw that she was already there, leaning up against the tree. She heard the sound of steps heading toward her and she pushed herself off and they started at one another. Neither knows how to start the conversation. Eventually Naruto broke the silence. It's been a while, Meiko. He says, smiling at her. It has. It's been about 3 years since you've been gone, Naruto. She says evenly. He felt a bit bad that he had to leave her after halfway through middle school. His father's work required them to move. I missed you, you know. Even though we texted back and forth, it wasn't exactly the same. She smiled at him and replied, I missed you too. Middle school was tough for a while, but eventually it got better. She said as they sat down. I didn't recognize you when I first walked into the classroom. He admitted. She smirks at him. Are you sure? Because it looked to me like you took your time looking at me. He looks away and can feel his face getting hotter. He had been caught. I'll admit I did look at you for a bit longer than anyone else, but it's kind of hard not to. You're gorgeous. He complimented her. She smiled at that. Most of the boys that look at her ogle her and don't even pretend to be discreet. This has led her to hate most men and think of them as nothing but pigs. Just like those she has to look over in the prison. You're not so bad yourself. You've grown and you've got a nice body now. You're no longer the skinny kid you used to be. The two spend an hour talking about what had been happening in their lives after he had moved away and reminiscing about when they were kids. As the two were talking, they both felt drawn to each other. The 3 years of not seeing each other obviously had them realize they both had some sort of feeling for each other. Even after just meeting again, they just felt right together. Slowly they found themselves moving their faces closer together. Their lips are just a hair away from each other. Beep beep beep. They both snapped out of their little trance and Meiko picked up her phone. She had gotten a text message. Naruto noticed as she read over it, her eyes seemed to narrow and her jaw clamp up. I'm sorry, but I'm needed by the USC. She said before she got an idea. Would you like to join me? It's just a quick errand I have to do. She asks while standing up. Yeah sure, let's go. He says. Inside his mind, however, he was both upset and pleased. Upset because they had been so damn close to kissing and were interrupted. Pleased because if she was willing to kiss him, that meant she didn't have a boyfriend. That thought bothered him. He followed Meiko to a strange-looking building a bit away from the school. It had plants growing on it and were those iron bars in the window. She opened the door and headed inside. They walked down a dark corridor and Naruto couldn't help but notice something as his eyes adjusted for the dark. Every room he saw on either side of the wall looked like a jail cell. Suddenly his eyes widened. The iron bars on the windows, the dark corridor, rooms that look suspiciously like jail cells. This was a prison. He gets a flashback to his talk with a girl in his 5th period class. The boys were sent to prison last week, so this is what she was talking about. The school actually had a prison built in it. Is this even legal? He thought to himself, a little freaked out by the concept. He noticed that one of the cells towards the end was emitting light, which meant the guys had to be in there. Sure enough, there they were, in black and white striped prison clothes, eating who knows what. They walked in and everyone turned their eyes towards them. He noticed that all 5 guys were there. One of them had short dark blue hair and was wearing black shoes along with a matching black and white horizontal striped shirt and pants. He is average height and is also thin. This boy is Kiyoshi Fujino. Next to him is a boy with shoulder-length black hair, glasses, and is wearing the exact same thing as Kiyoshi. He is tall and thin. This is Takehito Morikuzu aka Gakuto. Next to him is a blonde guy with his hair gelled back with a strand hanging down. He's about the same height as Kiyoshi and has lighter skin than the others. Like the guys next to him, he's also wearing the standard prison clothing, only he prefers to wear his collar open. This is Shingo Wakamoto. Next to him is the biggest one of them all. He's tall, a bit on the heavy side with huge earlobes and a small face. He has short hair and like the others before him has the prison uniform on. This is Ryoji Ando aka Andre. Finally, the last of the guys is an average height boy. He's thinner than the rest of them. His head is covered by a hood which Naruto can't find out how he got, considering that those don't seem to be sweaters. The thing that makes this boy different is that he seems to be sick since he keeps coughing up blood, yet nobody seems to do anything about it. This is Joji Nezu aka Joe. There are two other girls occupying the cell as well. The first is a girl with long black hair. She's of average height with a medium-sized chest. She wears the girl's uniform the way it's supposed to be, clean and proper. Brown blazer buttoned in the middle. Her white long-sleeve undershirt is buttoned all the way up with her red bolo tie also in order. She wears a brown skirt with black pantyhose underneath and dark brown shoes. This is Mara Kurihara, eldest daughter of the chairman. Besides her is another girl. This one has short blonde hair and a bob cut and also has a medium-sized chest. She wears the girl's uniform in the same fashion as Mary, only she uses leggings underneath her skirt to cover down to her knees and doesn't wear socks with her shoes. This is Hana Midorikawa. Thank you for joining us as vice president, says Mary. It was no trouble at all, says Meiko bowing. Naruto raised an eye at her behavior but said nothing. Mary looked over and noticed him. It seems the last transfer student has finally joined us. I'm Mary Kurihara, president of the Underground Student Council. She introduces herself to him. And this is Hana Midorikawa, secretary of the USC. You're already familiar with the vice president, so I won't introduce you to her. Pleased to meet you, he says before looking over at the boys. So if you don't mind me asking, why are they here? Mary pulls out a book from her jacket and hands it to him. This is the official Underground Student Council guidebook. Is it official or is it underground? Naruto asks, confused. That's exactly what I asked, said Kiyoshi. Silence, yelled Meiko before she kicked Kiyoshi in the face. Naruto looked and saw the big one looking at her with a crazy look on his face. The boy pounced. Please, the vice president punished me too, let me lick your boots, he yelled as he dived at her. Before he could reach her, he had a foot on the side of his head, sending him away. Looking up, he saw Naruto looking down at him. Nobody is going to lick any part of Meiko, he says with narrowed eyes. The boys looked at Naruto in shock for two reasons. 1. He just kicked Andre like it was nothing, and 2. He called the vice president by her first name and she didn't do anything. Then they were shocked again when they saw her smile at him. You didn't have to do that, but thank you, Naruto, I'll handle this, she said. He stepped aside and it was his turn to be shocked as he watched her ruthlessly beat the boy with a horsewhip of all things and listened to her call him a fat pig. If it wasn't obvious before, it was now. This was definitely not the girl he grew up with. But strangely, he liked this new Meiko. Right, I suppose I should finish the introductions. In order from left to right: Kiyoshi, Gakuto, Shingo, Andre, and Joe, Mary said, pointing at each boy. They're here because they decided to peek into the girls' shower, she said while looking at them with a disgusted look. On the outside, Naruto was shaking his head with disappointment, but on the inside he could see why they would try it. The school was filled with beautiful girls. If he had been here at the correct time, he probably would have joined them. Giving them a thumbs up when none of the girls were looking, they all nodded their heads, obviously not sorry for it. The reason you were called vice president was because we need you here to explain to them what's going to happen. Well, I'm against it. The chairman has decided that should you all behave yourselves, you will have the weekends free and be allowed to remain in the school. Vice President, you and Hana will take turns supervising them as they work on the courtyard. The two girls nod before letting the president finish talking to the inmates. When she finished, she turned to Naruto. As long as you behave and follow the rules in the guidebook, she says, pointing at the dudes, won't happen to you. Do you have any questions? Nope. He says, if I have any questions I'll just ask Meiko, he says, throwing one arm around her shoulders, bringing her closer. The boys thought she'd beat him for putting a hand on her, but she didn't. She just nodded and said, I'll show him the ropes, she said before they left, his arms still around her. Why didn't she attack him? Asked Kiyoshi to the other guys. Not that it's any of your business, but the vice president told me that she and Namikaze-san were best friends when they were younger until he moved away. With that, the guys were left to their own devices, wondering what kind of guy this Namikaze was to be able to get along with the vice president that well. One thing was for sure though, they were all jealous as hell. Naruto and Meiko decided to go get something to eat and head to Naruto's room and continue talking. They talked about anything and everything. He wanted to ask what made her be so violent but decided against it. It was kind of hot seeing her be tough. When she finally had to leave to finish her homework and take care of some paperwork for the USC, she pecked him on the cheek before heading out. Looks like coming to this school won't be so bad after all. The following day Naruto was woken up by the rays of the sun hitting his face. Rubbing his eyes he checked the time and saw it was 6:30 in the morning. Damn, time to get ready. He thought before finally moving off the bed. Since he's a man it didn't take him longer than 5 minutes to have his uniform on and be ready for class. Quickly he checks his bag and makes sure he has every assignment that is due and, as he's doing so he can't help but wonder something. How do the guys not fall behind being in prison and all? He sat on his bed just checking social media to kill some time before heading to class. 15 minutes later he heads out the door to his first class. He arrives right on time, everyone is already in their seats. Taking his seat that he picked yesterday, he prepares to listen to the teacher begin her lesson. It's gonna be a long day. It didn't take long for Naruto to zone out and start thinking of other things. Mainly Meiko. What should we do this Friday? Should I invite her to the movies? Dinner? Is she even into that sort of thing? Given how much she's changed I don't know what her interests are now. Maybe we could go watch a kendo tournament in town. That last thought was immediately discarded. No, that's what she would have wanted to do. His thoughts were interrupted by someone calling him. He turned to his right and saw it was some girl he hadn't seen yesterday. She wore the standard girl's uniform properly just like Kurihara, the only difference is that she doesn't use the pantyhose and she also doesn't wear socks. She has red hair with two big curled strands on either side of her face and bangs going left. Hello, my name is AizenTheGoat, president of the student council. I would have introduced myself yesterday, but I had some matters to attend to. She says bowing slightly. Naruto looked around and noticed the teacher wasn't in the room anymore. She left to get some papers while you were spacing out. Kate knows what he was thinking. Namek is Naruto, nice to meet you. He replied bowing. Something is off about this girl. She said she was the president of the student council. So there's two. When the teacher finally came back there was only a few minutes left of class, so they were allowed to pack up early. The rest of the day proceeded the same as yesterday, no friends in class and no one that really wanted to talk. The height of the school day was when his final class finally arrived. He was early so he went over to Meiko's desk to talk to her. She was wearing her usual uniform and he couldn't stop himself from glancing quickly at her almost exposed chest. Good thing there's only 6 guys at this school. People would be all over her. He sat on the seat next to hers for the time being. While he was on the subject of the guys he decided to ask her something. Hey Meiko, how long are the guys going to be in prison? They will be in for a month if they're on good behavior. They will be allowed 3 hours on the weekends unless specifically told otherwise. Should they try and escape before their time is up, they will be penalized by adding more time to their sentence. She explains. So I'll be alone for a month, that's if the guys don't do anything stupid. Don't get him wrong, he likes being with Meiko again, but there's some things you can only talk to guys about. After class Naruto and Meiko head back to his dorm to do the homework they were assigned. Along the way he can hear whispers and glances that other girls would send them. Some of them would say stuff like, what's the vice president doing with him? I thought she hated men. Maybe she's escorting him to make sure he doesn't do anything perverted. Walking into his room he hears Meiko talk. You haven't decorated your room at all. That's usually the first thing people do when they move in. The idiots already put posters of scantily clad women and games in their room. She comments. Taking a look around he realizes she's right. All that's in there is his bed, the dresses provided, and a little desk. This Saturday or Sunday I'll head home to pick up some stuff. He sat at his desk and Meiko sat on his bed leaning against the headboard, one leg stretched out while the other leg was brought closer to her chest so she could put her folder on it. Naruto finished his assignments quickly and while he was waiting for her to finish he sat next to her on the bed and asked something that had been on his mind. Meiko, how did you get involved with the underground student council? You weren't exactly the most social person in school. She stopped writing and was silent for a bit before answering. When you left after the first year of middle school, I was bullied quite a bit. Boys and girls would call me a loner and would also make fun of me because I already had somewhat big breasts. As she mentions her breast she uses both hands to cup them and give them a little squeeze. Try as he might he could not look away. One day when they were bullying me, someone told them her name is Kurihara Mary. She helped me out and got me to be more confident and stand up for myself. I nearly beat one of the girls up. From that point on we became best friends and when we entered high school I joined the USC with her. By the time she finished her tale she finally noticed she was being held from behind and she had subconsciously adjusted so she could be with her back on his chest. Naruto started hugging her the moment she mentioned being called a loner. He felt bad she had to go through that. Though that might be the reason why she's so violent now. Naruto enjoyed being in that position, drawing circles on her abdomen over her shirt. Just as he was about to make himself comfortable, he heard a phone ring, and it wasn't his. Meiko shifted around to get her phone to check what the message said. Meanwhile, Naruto is thinking, damn, again, really? That's the second time that the phone has been interrupted for a moment. Well, it seems that it's my turn to watch the inmates do their work in the courtyard. I don't think the president would mind if you came along, she says. Getting the message, Naruto puts his stuff away and follows her out the door. They arrived about 10 minutes later, and Meiko was to oversee the boys along with Midorikawa to make sure they weren't slacking off. Seeing that Midorikawa had already assigned 3 boys tasks, Meiko had Morikuzu and Fujino clean the shed. And remember, he only knows them by their real names, as of now. Hiyashi Pav. 5 minutes before Vice President arrives. Hiyashi, Gakudo, the Vice President will be here soon to assign you your tasks. Stay there and don't do anything until she tells you to, says Hana while shooting me a deadly glare. Gakudo, I call out softly so as to not be heard by anyone else. What is Kiyoshi Dono? He asks, looking at me. I don't know if you're aware, but I made plans to go see a sumo match with Chiyo-chan this week. Yes, I recall you saying something like that. I've decided I'm going to break out of here and I need your help. I tell him, hoping he won't turn to tell the others. After a few seconds, he looks over at me and says, very well, Kiyoshi Dono, yours truly will help you escape on one condition. Name it. Well, you're free. I need you to buy some limited edition 3 Kingdom figures of Guan Yu and Red Hair that are available once every 4 years. He says excitedly. I'll have to be quick about it, but if that's all, then I'll do it. Alright, listen up. I hear the voice of the vice president calling out to us. I notice the same guy that was with her yesterday is with her again today. I wonder what kind of person he is to be able to do pretty much whatever he wants with the vice president and not get beaten up. I can safely say that I and every other one of the guys here are jealous of him though. He's always with one of the hottest girls and isn't in prison. Life's not fair, I yell to myself. Hiyashi, you and Gakudo are to clean that old shed over there, and you better not let me catch you 2 idiots messing around, she says venomously. Don't worry, Vice President, yours truly will. Ugh, he never got to finish as she slammed her boot to his face while applying pressure to the heel right at his temple. Silence, don't speak, and do your work, she says before heading back to Namikaze. I decided we'd better get started, so Gakudo and I head towards the shed to start cleaning up. I start taking some of the leaves that have piled up over time. As I'm doing so, I notice something. Right there on the concrete wall near the ground, there's a hole. Not big enough for me to squeeze through, but if I dig at it enough with something, I can make it big enough for me to fit through. This is it. This right here is my way to go on my date with Chiyo-chan, I think in glee. Gakudo, where Kiyoshi is, I hear. Looking from the corner of the building, I see the vice president heading my way. I quickly cover the hole with some leaves for now and head back there. Here I am, Vice President. I'm sorry I took so long, there was a lot of junk. She just talks and tells me to get back to work. I headed over to Gakudo to tell him about my discovery. Hey Gakudo, I think I found my way out, I tell him again, whispering, as I notice Hana coming our way. How so? He asks while pretending to be busy. There's a hole on the wall behind the shed. I have it covered with leaves at the moment, but it can be found if one takes them. I tell him, slightly nervous that someone will find it. Especially since if one of us breaks out, our sentence is increased for all of us. Don't worry, Kiyoshi Dono, just let yours truly deal with that, he says. I wonder what he has planned. Naruto Pav. This overseeing job isn't so bad from what I can tell. I don't really do much except watch the ladies abuse the guys. Do I find it wrong that they do this? Yeah, but damn me if it isn't amusing every now and then. Is it weird that I like it when Meiko shows her sadistic side? Anyways, right now is one of those amusing moments as I witness Morikuzu and Fujino act out the most fake fight ever. I can't help but wonder, what are they trying to achieve by doing this? Oh look, Midorikawa is heading their way and she doesn't look happy. I watch on as she breaks up the fight by kicking them both into the shed, effectively breaking it. I whistle in appreciation that she's got a pretty mean kick. They apologize for their behavior and get back to work, and I turn my attention back to Meiko. For the next 10 minutes I just listen to her rant about how the guys are no good and whatnot before I feel my bladder start acting up. Hey Meiko, I'm going to use the restroom real quick, I'll be right back. She nods and goes for a round of patrol. As I'm heading to the restroom, I notice something odd. Midorikawa and Fujino are nowhere to be found. Where could they have gone? Surely Meiko would have noticed if they had fled. Putting the thought aside, I walk inside the building and see the stalls. It didn't have any urinals. The room was basically a square with the left side of the room being a mirror and sinks, while across from that is 4 stalls. I head to a stall and open the door and my jaw drops. Regular Pav. The sound of the stall door opening caused Hana's mouth to open in shock. How did someone get inside without her noticing? She must have been too distracted trying to get Kiyoshi to pee in front of her that she didn't realize they weren't alone in the restroom anymore. Naruto opened the stall, and since he didn't know what was going on, he misinterpreted the situation. From his angle it looked very wrong to someone who didn't know their situation. He just walks in and sees the secretary of the USC on her knees in the boys' bathroom with her mouth open and Fujino's pants around his ankles. How else would someone interpret this? So he just said the first thing that came to mind. "Sorry for interrupting you two, I'll just use the restroom later," he said quickly, closing the door and leaving the room. The two teens just stood and one kneeled, they're mortified about what had just happened. Kiyoshi was the first to speak. "Well, this is going to be a tough one to explain." Naruto laid down in his bed but didn't go to sleep. He couldn't believe what he had witnessed earlier in the day. How did Fujino manage to talk the secretary of the underground student council into blowing him while in prison? Kids must have a killer game to pull that off. Especially considering how violent she is. He said to himself. It was about 10:30 in the night and he couldn't sleep, so he decided to go for a walk. There was no rule against it, so why not? He left his room in only a black muscle shirt and black basketball shorts with an orange stripe running down the side, along with his regular tennis shoes. He didn't have a specific location in mind, he just started walking. As he did, he was still thinking about the incident. He had accidentally stopped a fellow guy from getting some play. Unacceptable. While thinking about all this, he had ended up at the shed where the whole thing began. Now that he was here, he recalled Fujino had spent a lot of time over here, in the back to be more specific. Looking back there, he realized exactly why he was there. There was a hole in the wall. He's planning to break out, but for what reason? He wouldn't tell Meiko about this, he'll ask Fujino himself. With this new information, he headed back to his room, though now he left with questions that hopefully would be answered soon. On his way back, he had another realization: Morokuzu must be in on it as well. Suddenly it all makes sense. He instigated the fake fight with Fujino to have Midorikawa drop the shed to conceal the hole, which he knew was there. If he knows, are the other three in on it as well? He finally arrived at his room and fell asleep with little trouble. One thing was for sure though, things were getting interesting. The next day, as usual, Naruto accompanied Meiko to do her patrols. It's become more of a routine now, she doesn't have to ask him to come with her, he just goes. Looking around, he sees Fujino working in the area of the hole. They make eye contact and Fujino flags him down. "Hey Meiko, I'm going to go tell Fujino to clean a specific spot, he keeps missing it and it's starting to bug me." He lies. She nods and says if he gets out of line, you have my permission to hit him. He heads over to him and says, "Fujino-san, what did you call me over here for?" He asks calmly. "You can call me Kiyoshi, Namikaze-san." "Alright, in that case just call me Naruto." He nods and starts talking about what you saw yesterday, me and Hana were just. He didn't get to finish as Naruto put his hand up. "I know what you're going to say, you were going to tell me about how you were just about to have the time of your life before I ruined it. I'm sorry I barged in, I should have knocked. I'll make it up to you, I promise. You should continue cleaning before Meiko gets mad," he says while jogging back. "What? No, that's not." It was too late. Naruto was shot out of earshot. Damn, now he thinks it was intentional. Oh well, I'll deal with it later. Right now I have to get a practice run, I need to go out for at least one since I have to be out for 3 on the actual day of the date. As he's exploring his environment, calculating his escape route, he hears something from behind him. It's the chairman of the school. What's he doing here? He whispers to himself. He seems to be burying something, with him here he can't get back to the hole to get back to school. With Naruto, everyone is doing their job just as instructed, but something is wrong. Kiyoshi is not on site. He must have gone through the hole. It's been about an hour, what is he doing out there? "Naruto? Have you seen Kiyoshi? He's been gone a long time," says Meiko, her eyes narrowing a bit at the mention of the prisoner. "Yeah, he should be behind the broken shed doing some cleaning in the spot I told him. He covered for him. Kiyoshi better come back from wherever the hell he is, he can only distract Meiko for so long before she gets frustrated." General, the chairman had finally finished burying his collection of photos and had started off. This is Kiyoshi's chance as he makes a break for the hole. Meanwhile, Meiko has had enough of waiting and is heading to his location to ask just what he was doing that he didn't answer her when she called for him. Just as Kiyoshi dives through the hole, only half of his body gets through. The other half is stuck, and to make it worse, he can hear the heels of the vice president's boots getting closer to him. He hangs his head in resignation knowing it's over, he's busted. Unbeknown to everyone, Gakuto had a small string connected to one of the broken pieces of wood. When the vice president stepped on it, he pulled it so that she would trip. This was enough time apparently, since Kiyoshi was the one to offer a hand up. Kiyoshi and Gakuto were unaware that Shingo had been looking at them with a bit of suspicion. "You got lucky, you just made it." thought Naruto. She tells Kiyoshi to respond the next time she calls his name and turns and walks to check on the others. Gakuto goes in that direction as well. Just as Kiyoshi is about to pass, Naruto puts a hand on his shoulder and stops him. Did you enjoy yourself out there? All the blood drained from Kiyoshi's face. He had been caught, but how? He was sure no one was around to see him. In a panic he spoke, please don't tell the vice president. I'm begging you. Relax, I'm not going to tell her anything. That seemed to calm him down a bit. I do want to know though, just what are you planning to break out for? Kiyoshi weighed his options. He could try and lie, but could risk being ratted out even though he said he wouldn't, or he could tell the truth and hope he sympathized with him. Taking a deep breath he began to tell him his story. How he had a date with Shiyu-chan, but because he was here he had to break out. He promised her he would be there. After the tale was over, Naruto looked at the boy with some newfound respect. He was keeping his promise even if he was locked up, he liked that. Don't worry Kiyoshi, I won't say a thing. I wish you luck. With that he left. As he headed in Meiko's direction he realized something. He had been so caught up in his story he forgot one important detail. Wasn't he in some sort of relationship with Midori Kawahana? And now he's going on a date with another girl. Does he have no shame? Once he finally caught up to Meiko he stood next to her as they watched the prisoners continue to do their manual labor. As he's observing he hears her speak to him. Naruto, would you like to come to my room tonight? I want to thank you for helping me out with my task as overseer. We could go get something to eat and watch something on TV. Sounds great. I'll be there at 8. Sounds good. That's perfect. Later that night Naruto headed to Meiko's room as agreed. She had already gone out to get food and had texted him to just show up in his regular nighttime clothes since they didn't have to leave now. Once he knocked on the door and she opened, his eyes grew wide and his jaw dropped considerably. She was dressed in a yellow tank top that covered barely above her belly button and the smallest pair of pink shorts he'd ever seen. He snapped out of it once he saw the smirk on her face and she let him inside. After they ate they cuddled up on her small sofa. He was sitting on the corner and she was sitting sideways on his lap, one hand over his shoulders. Once again Naruto was drawing patterns on her sides. He noticed her turn her head to him and she said, we've paraded around this long enough. She pushed herself up and brought her lips to his. It wasn't gentle, it was rough and they both liked it that way. He adjusts her so that she's completely straddling him, never breaking the lip lock. Meiko must have been really feeling this since she grabbed Naruto's hands and placed them on her breasts. Even for someone like Naruto this was enough of a hint to know what she wanted. He began to knead them over her shirt, pinching and pulling at her nipples that were now erect. Every twist brought out a lewd moan from her and he loved the sound. He removed his hands and began to pull her shirt up. She lifted her hands allowing him to do so, meaning she was okay with it. Had she pulled it down he would have stopped. She in turn also pulled his shirt off and began to feel around his pectoral muscles while scratching up and down, giving him a great sensation. He attacked her neck next and began kissing and sucking on it, leaving a nice mark to show he was there. He began to kill lower. One hand kneaded her right breast while he sucked on the upper part of her left one, also leaving a mark. She in turn also left him a nice hickey on his neck. He picked her up and laid her on the couch on her back so she was under him. He kissed her again and his hands began to pull at her shorts, but alas it was not to be as her phone went off once again. Damn it all. It's like that phone hates me or something. He raged in his mind. I'm sorry Naruto, but I completely forgot I have to ask the pigs what item they wish to request. It's a part of their rights or something. We'll have to continue this some other time. She said as she put her shirt back on. Shouldn't you put something else on? What if someone sees you? He said, worried about a staff member seeing the marks he left on her. Don't worry, it's about 9 right now, no one is patrolling the area, we'll be fine, let's go. She says, heading to the door. She was right, there was absolutely no one in the halls or in the courtyard. The prison building was soon in sight and he wondered what kind of things they would ask for. They walked in and he saw all of them turn to look at them. More specifically the marks on Meiko's neck. He was glad that the shirt at least covered the area on her breast he had left his mark on. Their attention was soon directed to him and his mark. Their eyes opened wide, they knew what had happened. Do you insects have your item request forms? She asked sternly. She looked over the papers and read out loud. Kiyoshi, a dictionary, approved. Gakuto, an MP3 player, denied. But it's for my English listening practice. He pleaded. I'll consider it. Shingo, hair gel, denied. Andre wanted some sort of pencil thing. Joe, an ant farm, I'll consider it. She said. She then pulled out a calendar and placed it on the cell wall. While she was doing that the one named Shingo spoke to him. I'm going to guess that you're the one who did that to her neck. Yeah, before we came here. He replied awkwardly, he didn't think they'd ask him about it. Did you guys go all the way? He asked slyly. Nah haha, before it went further we had to come here. Man, I envy you so much right now. He said, sighing. No doubt he hates being trapped here. Don't worry man, I'm sure once you're out you'll find someone. There's 1060 girls in this school and one of them has to like you. Naruto said. Yeah, I hope so. He says with a small smile and calm voice, no doubt picturing it in his mind already. This guy is pretty cool. Don't tell Meiko anything, but I'll get you your hair gel. He says, bumping fists with him. Meiko told the boys about the different work they'd be doing on Saturday. I noticed the looks that came across Kakashi and Morikuzu. This obviously interfered with their escape plan. Naruto, we're leaving. The next day, Shingo is pushing a cart with debris on it when he sees Kakashi and Gakuto kneeling talking. I can't wait for this Saturday, I haven't actually hung out with those two in a while. It'll be cool. He thinks to himself. They're talking so low that he can only make out certain words. The words he does make out though doesn't leave him with a good feeling. Looking over the cart he listens in. Shingo has a tight ass. His mouth drops and he covers it before any noise comes out. Quickly he kneels behind the cart to avoid being seen. Looking forward he sees Naruto and gets his attention by waving his hand sporadically. As Naruto heads his way, Shingo grabs him by the arm and makes him hide as well. Mind telling me what we're doing back here? Asking Naruto, confused. Alright, listen. Shingo goes on to explain what he heard as he was passing by. Now Naruto is thinking about this newfound information. So Kakashi is planning to date some mystery girl while having lustful encounters with Midorikawa and now he's aiming for Shingo. What is it with Kakashi? Kakashi doesn't look like the type to go after guys, but if he did say Shingo had a tight ass, how do you explain that? For now he'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Okay, calm down, there's a chance you may have just misheard. Listen closely, if you hear anything else, you don't want to spread rumors without any proof. Naruto advises before leaving. Later that night, buzz, Naruto checks his phone and sees it's a text from Meiko. She wants him to restock the men's bathroom supply with soap. Having nothing better to do, he agrees and heads to the prison, already knowing where the stuff was. Heading to the prison, he couldn't help but think of what Shingo had told him. It had to be a misunderstanding, right? There's no way Kakashi swung that way. Once inside he heads towards the bathroom and hears water running. Looks like he'll have to yell at them to get it once he's gone. When he reaches the bathroom he notices that Shingo is already nude, about to head in. Yo, what are you doing here? Shingo asks him. Just gonna give you guys more soap, you mind taking it in with you? Shingo doesn't mind. As he's heading inside he sees Gakuto with his head at Kakashi's crotch with the guy saying it feels good. Naruto, Shingo yells quietly. What? He asks, confused. Shingo waves him over to look inside. Naruto doesn't know why he listens to him, but he does, and when they look again they see Kakashi holding Gakuto by the waist with Gakuto on the ground on all fours, saying it hurts. Jesus Christ, thinks Naruto. Looks like Shingo was right. They've been spotted. The two boys showering come closer to them. Shingo, Dono, come on in, yours truly will wash your back for you. You said you wanted to have a blast. You too, Namikaze Dono, this could be a good chance for us to get to know each other. Says Gakuto with an insane look on his face. I didn't mean it like that, I have to go. Yells Shingo. Sorry man, I'm not Kylo Ren, I'm not going to be swayed over to your side. Replies Naruto before he and Shingo leave in a hurry. When they were gone, Gakuto asked, who's Kylo Ren? Just outside a covered up Shingo and Naruto is catching their breaths, looks like you were right after all. Says Naruto before going back to his room. On the way there he thinks, damn, Kakashi, who would have guessed. For the next 2 days Naruto wasn't able to go with Meiko on the patrols as he actually had a few tests to study for and quite a bit of work. When he did show up though, he had found out something rather interesting. He looks at the inmates lined up in front of Meiko and he notices Gakuto is wearing brown pants because he shit himself in computer class. He hears one of the boys mutter something about it being Kakashi's fault and stifles a laugh. He listens as Meiko taunts him before having them go to work. He can't help but feel a bit bad for the guy, he's effectively ruined his reputation. Naruto decides he'll try and help the guy out somehow. Have you ever met someone so stupid that they amuse you and you can't help but get along with that person? Then they go along and do something so outrageously stupid that you couldn't believe such a level of stupidity actually existed. Well, this is exactly what Naruto is experiencing. In his 3rd class he just received word that Gakuto had pulled down Kurihara skirt while cleaning. Some girls were talking about what they saw and they said he jumped and pulled them down while looking upwards. He's not taking their complete word for it since the girls around here are against them, so the story could be exaggerated, but still. It does sound like something the guy would do. One thing is for certain though, there's no way that Gakuto will come out of this unharmed. I've seen the guys get beat just for speaking, I wonder what will happen to him for this. But that thought came something else. Those guys get treated pretty damn badly. Sure, they tried to peek at the girls in the shower, but it's not like they actually touched the girls. There's no reason for them to be treated so poorly. I've got an idea. Naruto thinks. Once the whole school day was over, Naruto texted Meiko. Hey, I won't be able to go with you on your patrol, there's something important I need to do. He read out loud to himself before sending. He heads to his dorm to drop his stuff off and change into a simple t-shirt and jeans before heading to his destination, the chairman's office. Knocking on the door, he waits until the man tells him to come in. As usual, he's sitting at his desk looking at his computer screen. Naruto stands there in silence. The only sound being made is the sound of the computer mouse being clicked. Speaking of which, is his mousepad someone's ass? Is that even allowed? So Mr. Namikaze, what can I help you with? I actually came because I have a concern and a request if you would hear me out. He says. What is it that you would like? Firstly, I'd like to talk about the poor treatment the boys in the prison are receiving. They get beaten for every little thing, and I've seen what they eat. The way they're treated is borderline inhumane. I see, and your request. I know that I can't change how they're treated, so I'd at least like it if twice a week they'd get a decent meal. As I've said, I have seen what they eat. I wouldn't exactly call it food. Naruto explains. The chairman is quiet. If word got out about how poorly some students are being treated, the school's reputation could go down the drain and might have to close for some time. After a minute of thinking, he speaks up. Your request is reasonable, I'll make sure it gets done. Naruto nods in appreciation before remembering something. If I may ask one more thing, what rights do the guys have on the weekends? He asks, remembering that Kiyoshi wanted to go on a date and the schedule that was drawn up by the president. They're allowed a few hours free unless I directly say otherwise. Naruto nods in understanding. Thank you for answering my questions and fulfilling my request. I'll be going now. He says, bowing before leaving. As Naruto exits the door, he heads to his new destination. Looks like the president is acting on her own now, it's time to pay her a visit. As he arrives at her office door, he hears her speaking to others about the boys. He can recognize both Meiko and Midorikawa's voices. Realizing she was upset, he takes out his phone and begins to record the conversation. This incident happened because of your lack of supervision, Vice President. I want you to be stricter on them so that something like this doesn't happen again, because if it does you will suffer by my crows. Says Mary. Naruto narrows his eyes at what he heard, not only because now she wants to punish the guys even more, but because now she's threatening Meiko. I'm sorry, President. He hears her tell Mary. That just serves to piss him off even more. Hearing footsteps near the door, he hides behind some of the lockers so Meiko wouldn't see him. Once the sound of her steps are gone, he leaves his spot and enters the room. Good afternoon, Namikaze-san, what can I do for you? She asks with a calm voice. I just wanted to let you know that this Saturday I'll be taking Meiko with me on an errand. He states while standing up, arms crossed. Unfortunately, I can't allow that as she's busy on Saturday. She says. Naruto knows what she's having her do, but he plays along with her. I see. Well then, what about if I take one of the boys? If they go with me, they'll still be doing work just somewhere else. I cannot allow that either. If they have none of us to supervise them, what's stopping them from leaving you? She says. Well, as far as I'm aware, they do have a few hours free on the weekend, so it shouldn't be a problem. Normally yes, but they don't have the weekend free anymore as they've been assigned to work that day. That's interesting because I spoke to the chairman and I've been told they can't lose their weekend rights unless he himself specifically says otherwise. He counters. But back to our main conversation about me taking Meiko on Saturday. He says before pulling out his phone. He puts it on her desk and plays back everything she had just said to Meiko moments ago. Her eyes widened as the recording continued. I have no problem letting the chairman hear this, threatening a fellow student, as well as over-abusing those you have in prison. I'm sure those are enough reasons for you to be thrown in prison, as well, if not expelled. Hana bolts up and says, how dare you threaten the president like that? All while throwing the same kick she's been hitting Kiyoshi and Gakuto with. Naruto just puts his arm up and blocks it, all while maintaining eye contact with Mary. Mary is just sitting there, shock gone and replaced with anger. Her eyes are narrowed and her jaw clenched. He had her cornered. Before she could say anything, he spoke once more. I'm taking Meiko on Saturday. Oh, and also the chairman has approved that the boys will get 2 decent meals per week. Being the nice guy that I am, I'll go ask what they want and deliver the list to you later. He says, heading for the door. Before he exited, however, he stopped and turned back and spoke. I want you to know that I'm grateful to you for taking care of Meiko in middle school when I wasn't there. However, as long as I'm here, no one is going to threaten her. If anyone damages one hair on her head, they'll have to deal with me. He says before exiting. Before heading to the prison to tell the guys, he heads to his dorm to pick something up as a part of keeping his word. Prison. He walks in and immediately everyone lines up, assuming that it's one of the USC members. Upon seeing him, he sees them all exhale a breath of relief. Namikaze-san. What brings you here? asks Kiyoshi. Yes, Naruto is fine, anyway I got good news for you guys. He explains to them about what he talked to the chairman about and how he got them food. Thank you for doing this for us Naruto Dono. Yells Gakuto with tears streaming down his face. Yeah, you wouldn't believe just how hungry we actually go. Says Andre. They tell him what they would like to eat and he writes it down. The guys just talk for a bit before Naruto decides to leave. Though before he goes he talks to them one last time. Alright guys, I'm out, just remember I'm going through a lot of trouble to do this for you, I'm sure now the president hates me too, so don't do anything too stupid to mess this up. Oh, and Shingo. He says throwing him a container. There's your hair gel, make sure Meiko doesn't see it, if she does you didn't get it from me. Shingo nods and puts it away. Saturday, Naruto wakes up and takes a look around and sees his empty room. Just like everyone else in the mornings he has to give himself a few minutes to remember what day it is. He realizes today he has to go get some belongings from home to make this place feel a little roomier. Taking out his phone he makes a call. Hello? Comes the voice on the other side. Hey Shikamaru, how are you doing? He asks breaking the ice. What do you need, Naruto? He asks, already knowing the blonde needs something. Alright, I need to borrow your truck to move some stuff from my parents' place over to my dorm here. Do you mind? He asks hopefully. Sure, I'll take it over to your parents' place later, but tomorrow you mind taking it to my uncle's house? I think he needs it for something, you know the one right? Yeah, I can do that, thanks man, I owe you big time. Yeah, whatever. I'm going back to sleep now, goodbye. Hanging up the phone, Naruto scrolls through his contacts until he finds the one he's looking for. He starts texting Meiko letting her know about today. Hey Meiko, today you're going on an errand with me. I've already run it by your president and she was more than happy to allow you to go with me, she'll have someone replace you at the track. He reads out loud, snickering a bit at that last part. Mary was anything but happy. Reading it once more he laughs again before sending it. Man, I'm funny. He compliments himself. Not a minute later he got a reply from her saying, as long as the president was okay with it then okay. Texting her to meet him in front of the gate at 1 PM he gets ready for the day. When the time finally came he was standing right next to the sign that read Hachimitsu Academy. He was dressed in casual clothes as he would be doing some lifting. A plain t-shirt, some dark blue jeans, and some old Nikes. He can't help but notice that everyone is already outside either heading to the bleachers to spectate or stretching to participate in the events. He was about 10 minutes early, so he hoped Meiko wouldn't be too long. As he was waiting he heard someone behind him. Turning around he noticed it was one of the girls that was taking part in the event. She looked quite nervous. Yes, can I help you with something? He asks with a smile which makes the girl even more nervous. Yes, I was wondering if you would like to. She didn't finish, as at that moment Meiko arrived. That normally wouldn't be a problem for people, but in this case it was. She showed up and pulled Naruto into a rough kiss while looking at the poor girl and pulled him by the hand and said let's go. And they left. She may not have said anything to the girl, but the look she gave was more than enough to relay the message. Naruto was hers. As they were walking to the train station Naruto asked a question. So what was that about back there? Did it bother you? She asked. Not at all, just wondering. Then it doesn't matter, I wanted to kiss you, and I did. Now I have a question, what exactly are we going to do? She asked since he never told her. We're going to my house to bring some stuff, you were right when you said my room was too empty. And how are we going to get it back here? My friend is letting me borrow his truck, I have a license, I just don't have enough money to buy myself a car. He said. She nods and they wait for the train. It took 20 minutes for the train to arrive and for them to get off at the correct stop. Before we go to my house let's stop by and get something to eat, my treat. He offers. She nods her head and smiles. They head to a small ramen stand that he would frequent when he lived here. Luckily they were the only ones in the stand, otherwise he was sure people would be ogling Meiko. Though she's wearing something revealing, it's not as revealing as her school uniform. She's wearing a black tight jeans, a loose-fitting blue shirt which still showed how big her chest was, and her sneakers. She still kept her hair in the same way she always did. Hey AM, can we get 2 bowls of ramen? Naruto shouted to the back. Soon a girl a few years older than them came out from the back. She was wearing a white apron and a bandana. That's all they could see from behind the counter. Naruto, is that you? Who's your friend? She asks out loud. Though in her mind she was thinking something else. Her boobs are huge. Before Naruto could speak, Meiko beat him to it. I'm his girlfriend, nice to meet you. She said. Wow Naruto, you sure got yourself a good one, 2 bowls of ramen coming right up. She said before getting to work. So you used to come here a lot? She asked as they waited for their food. Yeah, once we moved here I saw this place after school and decided to stop by. I loved it so I came almost every week. Once their food finally arrived they just talked about different things Naruto did once moving here. When they were done they walked to Naruto's place, which wasn't too far away. "My place is just a few minutes ahead, I'm sure my mom will be surprised to see you again," he says before his eyes widen. He had just remembered his mom knows the young, shy, adorable Meiko, not the tough, sexy one. "Why do I feel like something is going to go wrong?" he says to himself in his mind. "Well, here we are," he says as they stop in front of his house. His house was a light gray two-story house with a small white wall in the front with their family's name on it. There was a small black gate to the right with a white truck parked. On the left side of the second story there was a small balcony with some clotheslines drying some clothing. Knocking twice before walking in, Naruto calls out, "Mom, Dad, I'm home." He hears footsteps coming from the kitchen area and he sees his mom Kushina. She was a woman in her mid-30s with long red hair and was wearing blue capri pants and a yellow shirt with a green apron over it. "Hello son, how are you?" she asks while hugging him. Her attention is turned to the silver-haired beauty next to her son. Looking at her once over, she smiles in recognition. "Meiko-chan, is that you?" she asks while also hugging her. "Look at what a beauty you've become," she says, looking her up and down. They hear steps coming from upstairs and soon it's revealed to be a man also in his mid-30s. He looks like an older version of Naruto, just with a bit longer hair and his two bangs on either side of his face. "Hey son, what brings you here?" he says, shaking hands with his son. He too looks over at the girl and recognizes her. "Hello Meiko-chan, how have you been?" he asks. "Hello Mr. and Mrs. Namikaze," she says, bowing a little lower than normally. She's known these people since she was little and has come to respect them. "Oh, I always told myself you could just call me Kushina," his mom whined. "Anyway, what did you guys come for? Are you hungry?" she asks. "No mom, it's okay, we're just here to get some stuff from my room to take to my dorm. It's a little plain," he says as they head upstairs to his old room. Once Naruto sees the things he wants to take, he starts hauling to the truck. Meiko noticed that he kept giving her all of the light stuff. "You know, if you don't give me some of the heavier stuff we'll be here all day. Do your parents know we're expected back today?" she says, crossing her arms. They hadn't noticed that as they were moving stuff in the room looking for anything Naruto wanted to take, his parents were coming up the stairs and they misheard what Meiko had said. Kushina heard, "Do your parents know we're expecting?" She paled and they both rushed into the room. "Naruto, is that true?" she asks frantically. Naruto just looks at her a bit confused. "Well yeah, I have to go back today." What did she think? He thinks to himself, assuming that's what she was talking about. "Well yeah," he says before looking at Meiko, who was making a face. "You okay Meiko?" he asks. She was starting to think eating before moving stuff wasn't such a good idea, now her stomach hurt. "Yes, I'm fine, my stomach just hurts a bit, that's all." Before bending over to pick up a box. "Naruto, you got her pregnant," she yelled. "What? No, we haven't done anything like that," he yells back, his face growing a bit red. Minato looks over at Meiko and notices a mark on her neck. He pokes Kushina in the rib and points to his neck before pointing at Meiko. She sees the hickey and pales even further, if that's possible. Naruto notices what they're looking at and his shoulders drop. Damn, that is not gonna help clear this up, he thinks. His mom breaks down in tears, crying about how her son became a sexual deviant and got a girl pregnant and how she was too young to be a grandmother. Grabbing Meiko by the arm, he leads her out. He calls back. "I'll call you guys tomorrow once you've calmed down and I'll explain this whole misunderstanding. No one is pregnant," he says before they head out the door and get in the truck. On the drive back, Meiko comments, "That's not what I expected to happen today," she says, chuckling. He laughs along with her, yet today it did not go as he had envisioned. They arrived at school about 30 minutes later and he parked in the student lot. The meet should be over by now, I wonder how it went for Kiyoshi. He thought to himself, not knowing that Kiyoshi had been busted. Thanks for watching my video and check out the author of this fanfic. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.